Welcome to the Family Office Sherpa podcast. I'm your host, Shaun Parkin, founder and managing director of Hall Road Investments. The aim of this podcast is to provide practical and implementable advice for those looking to build, manage, or service a family office. This is not, however, investment advice, so please check the disclaimer in the show notes. In this episode, I'm asking the question, do you really want to work in a family office?
This is the Family Office Sherpa.
So a lot of people say, I would love to work in a family office. To be honest, when I left State Street, and even when I was there, I looked at my family office clients and thinking that looked like a really, really good job, especially on the investment side. Because, honestly, it can be a really good job because they're great. You think about it, there's good pay, there's interesting investments, and you would hope that there's less of the corporate nonsense, to be honest. And they're right? A lot of the time, it's you're not wrong if you think that. But there are a bunch of things people don't think about. And some of the things that seem like a negative are actually positives. So I thought I would go through my experience both working closely in a family office, sort of more of a fractional piece, and also seeing, and because I work with people that work within family offices all the time. So it's quite an interesting dynamic, and I thought it might be good to go through it. So for those people that are thinking, well, maybe this is a viable option, and just maybe some of the things to think about. So part one, which is really the things that maybe are, they might sound like cons, or the stuff that people don't expect, right? So it could be con, or it might just be different, right? So what will you not expect to a certain degree? Number one, you will never be top of the pile. If you're seeking the job of the tippy top, you can become a CEO, but above you always is the family. No matter how senior you are not the principal. You can be trusted, valued, respected, but the overarching thing is the family comes first. Always. The family's priorities will always outrank yours. So if you're used to decisions being made and then followed through without any movement from that, you're in for an interesting time, because decisions can be made without you or over you at any time. So be comfortable with that. It doesn't always happen. Sometimes it never happens, but you need to be aware that the top of the pile is family. Number two, bigger family offices, of which I've worked with and work for, still to this day, can feel a little bit like a corporate. But if you look at some people that go into the larger family offices, you do see them come from exceptionally good corporate backgrounds. Looking like they're going to become leaders within those corporates. But once you go into the family office, that career ladder or that career progression, if you're staying in that office, is relatively limited. Some, they look like a corporate role, like I said, without the normal progression. There is no sort of head of X, director of X partner pathway. Often there's one seat, and somebody's more often than not already sitting in it. So just be cognizant of that. It's not to say, though, one of those caveats for this is can be really good for career progression if you go back into corporate. I think some of the things that we experience and we get to do within family offices would help when you get to that point of your career. And I think it looks good on a CV now. I think having a history of, within a single family, especially larger ones, can be really helpful. Number three, things can change overnight. Family offices can pivot instantly, which is sometimes a challenge for people. You get things like a generational shift, a death, a marriage, a divorce, a dispute, and suddenly the office is potentially, it might be shrinking, it might be changing direction completely, and in some cases, they might be getting shut down. So you have to think about it from that point of view, which is one day we're doing this, the next day it might all be gone, and you have to think about that. It's not like there's a corporate where, we think about profitability and it might wind down, or there might be challenges and you can see it. Oh, their business isn't doing well, or we're starting to get layoffs and stuff like that. Sometimes it could just be, no, we're not doing this anymore. This is not what we want to do. And that can be a con. That can be disconcerting for sure. Number four, family dynamics are not easy. if you think about it, the family dynamic, so when I say that, I mean the way that there is interactions within the family members is really the real operating system. You're often dealing with histories, relationships, sometimes tension, and sometimes that can spill into decisions. So if you've not worked in that kind of environment, it can be a bit of a shock. But it's not something that can't be. For the right people that are good at dealing with people, it's actually a really enjoyable office environment to work with family, work within those dynamics. Number 5, you are not family. That's something that you got to think about. You might feel close, you might be trusted, but ultimately you are staff, and you need to think about it like that. If you forget it, it can be a tough lesson. The moment things get difficult, really, and it's just think about this from your own family perspective. As soon as it gets difficult, the boundary becomes very real, very fast. Sometimes there's family dynamics, you tighten up, and that's going to happen. And so you just need to be cognizant of that, the fact that you are still staff, you're still employed. Number 6, it's not your money, right? And this is something, I think this is probably one of the biggest things to think about. It does sound obvious, but it does change it, right? It's not, you might see things or opportunities or investments that you'd personally take, but the family just won't. And you need to deal with that. Your job here is stewardship. It's not, for want of a better term, self-expression, right? Which is not that dissimilar to the corporate piece. But I think the big difference is these decisions can be made by one individual, or it can change, or you could make the greatest argument, and with research, with all sorts of different things that would make any normal investment office make that investment decisions, and people might just go, nah, that's not going to happen. And that you can see that, and you can say, or they might take investments which you would say that you would never do, or you would say the research says not to do this, and they go, well, we're doing it anyway because it's our money, and you need to realize that. Number 7. The office success, or sometimes failure, really does come down to one person sometimes. In a family office, a single relationship can be the make or break here, right? Like the single person. You can be, amazing, brilliant, all the rest of it. But if the key decision maker, which is the family, doesn't trust you, you're going to be very challenged by that. Right. Number 8. Wealthy people, so family office principals and executives, still care about value despite potentially the size of them. Just because they have a lot of money doesn't mean they like wasting it. A lot of the time, the business was built off frugality, of being really conscious of P&L, of making sure they extract value. And they're not just going to change overnight. Oh, we got a family office now. It's like, we don't care. Absolutely not. They're still going to, as they should, right? In fact, I would say many wealthy families are more cost conscious because it's their money. Like a P&L loss is taking money out of their pocket or their kid's pocket or their kid's pocket, right? So think about it from that point of view. We're not just institutions here. We are, this is the money. So they may question fees, consultants, software. I worked in a lot of the technical, and some of it's expensive, and there's a lot of questions around that, and there should be. Headcount. Sometimes you see people, principals come into office and go, who are all these people, right? And they expect a clear return on every dollar, just like they did when they had an operating business. Or a lot of family offices still have operating businesses. So don't think that it's just going to be, we're just going to go for the best. And no, when it comes to the family office, it's still going to be very much around price versus value. Number 9, the job advertised is often not the job you do. This is all the time. But again, I don't know if this is a con or this is a positive. It really does depend on who you are. Family roles, office roles are really constantly evolving. You may think you're joining as, like an investment analyst, and 6 months later you're doing, negotiating insurance, or, fixing the reporting infrastructure and the operations and technology, and helping with a property purchase, or, cars and all this sort of cool stuff. And I think it can sometimes go either way, right? Which is sometimes the breadth of the job or the complexity is is wonderful and it's challenging and you get to do a lot of cool stuff. And sometimes it's like, I did not sign up for this, man. Like, this is not what I want to do. And I'm being pulled into a lot of really, I'm doing data entry and I'm a CFA, that kind of stuff. And you really got to realize that sometimes comes with the gig. Number 10, personality fit beats resume. Always, like I've said this many times, I don't need to reiterate it too much, but you might look like hot stuff on paper, but if you're hard to work with, you're not flexible, you're like really rigid, this is what I do, this is what I don't do, or you don't gel with the family, really importantly, it's going to be a pretty short stint. It's not going to be enjoyable. Number 11, and this is something that you need to think about from a personal governance point of view, is the corporate process is often missing. Things like HR, payroll, IT, procurement, functions that look like normal sort of, will come into most corporates, those often don't exist, which means you'll either tolerate that level of, I don't want to say chaos, but certainly that level of uncertainty and total flexibility, or you'll be the person that might build that structure from scratch. And that's actually a really good thing. So if you get someone to come in the office and go, we need more structure, more, operations, process and things like that, that's actually not a bad thing. So this is why we like to bring people into the office. Now, part 2, which is, this is the upside. Like, this is why people love family office. Number 1, you're at the coal face of investing. You're close to decisions. It's real capital and real outcomes. Less committees and oftentimes more actual responsibility. Certainly more than you would get if you were sort of analyst number 5 in a team of 30, right? Number 2, it can be paid really, really well. Some of the recent research that's come out it does show, there's some good salaries and good bonuses to be made here. This is why we're starting to see people come into the family office sector, because they're like, well, this is viable. Like, I'm not going to take a down step here financially. So this is really good. So for people who can combine trust, discretion, things like that, things that are a little bit more, I don't know, EQ, maybe, I don't know, but it can be very, very well paid for the right people. Number 3, it can feel genuinely meaningful sometimes, right? Done well. Family offices are intergenerational projects. You can see the next generation come through. I know I love that part of it, which is you start to see people go, this is interesting, and you were a part, or I was a part of the people that we put together are a part of that, and that can be really, I don't know, it just feels good, right? You can feel like you're helping build something that matters beyond quarterly performance reports and stuff like that. Like, you can really feel it. And especially if there's this big philanthropic piece, you can see if an office is aligned to that, you can see some of the outcomes and you get a bit of a warm, fuzzy feeling from that. It's very, very beneficial. It's great. Number 4, less bureaucracy. Like I said, it's a challenge, but also less bureaucracy can be very freeing. Decisions can be made without, we're going to have a meeting about a meeting before we make a decision. We got to have 3 steering committees in place and a town hall and 7 papers written, because no one wants to make a decision because there's too much, covering of asses. You do realize when you get into especially small investment teams and investment offices, or even offices generally, it's very flat and you can make a decision and someone else can make a decision. You don't necessarily need to unpack and socialize and all those cool sayings. So it can be less bureaucratic, which can be good. And last one, number 5, you become multi-skilled real fast. Family offices force you to learn quickly. It's kind of like boutique advice businesses or startups or, those sorts of things. You kind of get thrown into it. And it's sometimes, you can learn quickly. I mean, you can fail, but you can also learn really quickly. Investments, ops, reporting, governance, tax. I mean, obviously just being aware of what your lane is, but, you become a really good generalist, which is what we kind of seek here, right? And you don't really get that across big corporates where you're very much like, this is your job. If you need to talk to someone that, about this, you go to them. Don't try and do it yourself. I think this is the opposite in family offices. So I guess what it comes to in closing is, so the question is a family office job good or bad? Because it's so idiosyncratic. It really is dependent on the office. But the question is, what type of person are you? Right? Because if things feel like a negative for one person, might be a positive for another. and vice versa. So the reason why I wanted to put this together is just maybe these are the things you should think about a little bit, right? Not just, I need to work for a family office, because that's where I was like, that sounds cool. Just think about it. And hopefully that was helpful. So final thought, it can be an incredible role, but if you're honest with yourself about what you're signing up for, right? That's what you need to be. Same thing can be, the same things that make these jobs unique and rewarding can also make them super frustrating. Know so that your land is everything. So hopefully that was helpful. If you're interested in understanding how I work with clients, because we do this kind of stuff, right? I'm kind of the generalist within it, but I love talking to people about working within family offices. I'm kind of sometimes end up quasi recruitment agent sometimes, but there's plenty of good specialists out there. Brian Adams at Mac International being one of them. There's an Agrius out of Singapore and London and things like that. So Google them, and they're the ones that put out a lot of good content as well for those looking at getting a better understanding of family office employment. If you're interested in just emailing me or getting me on LinkedIn, you can email me at Shaun, SHAUN, at hallroad, HALLROAD.com.au. If you like the content, subscribe to the Sherpa newsletter. It's been going for 7 years. It's a really engaged readership. It's a curated family office newsletter. You can go get that at hallroad.com.au. Until next time, thanks for listening.